In September 2008, a man named Richard Fuld walked into a congressional hearing room in Washington, D.C. He was the CEO of Lehman Brothers. His company had just filed for the largest bankruptcy in American history. He had personally earned approximately $500 million over the previous 8 years running it. Outside that building, 8 million Americans were in the process of losing their jobs. 4 million families were in the process of losing their homes. The retirement accounts of ordinary people who had done everything right were being cut in half in real time. That was 2008. This is 2026. And the question that nobody in mainstream financial media wants to answer plainly is the one that actually matters for your life. What happens to you, specifically, if it happens again? This video is that answer. Not the comfortable version. The real one. To understand why 2026 matters, you first have to understand what 2008 actually was. It began in the early 2000s with interest rates. After the dot-com crash and September 11th, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates from 6.5% to 1% by 2003. When money costs nothing, borrowing is cheap. When borrowing is cheap, people buy houses. When everyone buys houses, prices go up. When prices go up, lenders stop caring if borrowers can actually afford the loans. This was the logic that destroyed everything. The banks packaged these mortgages into financial instruments called collateralized debt obligations. The mortgages inside were increasingly given to people who could not actually afford them. No income verification, no asset verification, no down payment. Ninja loans. And the credit rating agencies stamped AAA, the highest possible safety rating, on these instruments because they were paid by the banks creating them. Trillions of dollars of these instruments spread across the global financial system. Into pension funds, into retirement accounts, into European banks. Into portfolios of ordinary people who had no idea what they had been sold. In 2006, the housing market peaked. The adjustable rate mortgages began to reset. A payment of $800 became $1,400. 4 million of people with no income verification and no assets, this was the end. Default rates rose. The foreclosure notices began. One house on the block. Then two. Then half the street. The CDOs built on these mortgages fell in value. Firms that held them with borrowed money faced margin calls. The forced selling began. In June 2007, 2 Bear Stearns hedge funds collapsed. Nobody noticed. Then in August 2007, credit markets froze. Banks stopped lending to each other. The plumbing of the financial system began to block. This was the real start of the crisis, 13 months before Lehman Brothers fell in September 2008. Hank Paulson, the Treasury Secretary, later wrote that he genuinely did not know if the United States would have a functioning economy by Monday morning. It was Friday. It was that close. The government responded with $700 billion of public money to the banks, interest rates cut to zero, quantitative easing invented and deployed. From its peak to its bottom, the S&P 500 fell 57%. $13 trillion in household wealth was destroyed. 8 million jobs. 4 million foreclosures. After 2008, the world was rebuilt on zero interest rates. For 15 years. Then in 2022, inflation arrived and the Federal Reserve raised rates at the fastest pace in 40 years. Mortgage rates went from 3% to 7% almost overnight. The housing market froze. The stock market fell 20%. Bonds fell more than stocks for the first time in 40 years. The 60-40 portfolio, the supposedly safe option, had its worst year in decades. Now 2026. The risks are building through different mechanisms. The most important of them begins in Tokyo. Japan has lived in financial purgatory for 30 years. Their interest rates were pinned near zero. Japanese investors, seeking returns, borrowed cheaply in yen and invested in American assets at 4 to 5%, the yen carry trade. At its peak, this trade was worth trillions of dollars. It was like the global financial system was running on Japanese cheap money. In 2024, the Bank of Japan ended its zero-rate policy and raised rates for the first time in 17 years. When Japanese rates rose, the carry trade math reversed. Investors began unwinding their positions, selling American assets, converting dollars back to yen. Immediately after the second rate hike, the S&P 500 dropped 6% and Japan's stock market fell 12% in one day. The capital that had flowed into America for 30 years began flowing home. And this is why mortgage rates in America refused to fall even as the Federal Reserve cut interest rates. The Fed controls short-term rates. Your mortgage rate follows the 10-year Treasury yield. And the 10-year Treasury yield is set by supply and demand for Treasury bonds. When Japan reduces its buying, supply overwhelms demand, yields rise, and your mortgage rate stays high. At the same time, the United States is running a $1 trillion annual deficit. The total national debt is over $36 trillion. It adds $1 trillion every 100 days. $9 trillion of debt needs to be refinanced in the next 3 years, debt issued at near-zero rates that now needs to be rolled over at 4 to 5%. The interest payment on the national debt already exceeds $1 trillion per year, more than the entire defense budget. Commercial real estate has a 20 to 30% vacancy rate in major cities. Regional banks hold 70% of commercial real estate loans. American consumers are carrying record credit card debt over $1.2 trillion. Consumer savings from COVID have been fully spent. None of these risks is a repeat of 2008 exactly. The trigger will be different, but the underlying dynamic is the same. A financial system operating on assumptions that are being tested simultaneously. What does this look like for your life? Phase 1, stock market volatility increases, your 401k shows losses. Phase 2, credit markets tighten, small businesses find credit unavailable, hiring freezes begin. Phase 3, the actual layoffs arrive. If you are in B2B businesses, marketing, consulting, discretionary services, you are in the first wave. Let us say you are 35 years old, earning $80,000, with a house, $120,000 in your 401k, $15,000 in savings, and $8,000 in credit card debt. This is a reasonable, responsible, middle-class American profile. When the layoff arrives, your 4 months of savings covers approximately 4 months of survival with unemployment insurance. But the average job search in a financial crisis takes 12 to 18 months. You run out of money before you find work. You face the choice of cashing out your retirement account at the worst possible time, or missing mortgage payments and destroying your credit. The person who prepared differently, who built 9 months of emergency savings, eliminated their credit card debt, and maintained their professional network, has 17 months of runway when they lose their same job. They can wait for the right offer. They receive 2 comparable offers at month 5. Their outcome, a better job. Same crisis. Different preparation. The steps you can take now are not complicated. Know your actual financial runway. How many months of expenses do you have in liquid savings right now? Build it to 6 months minimum, 9 if possible. This is more important than investment returns, more important than extra mortgage payments. Eliminate high-interest debt. Review your asset allocation with the question, can I emotionally and financially survive a 40 to 50% decline? Invest in your professional skills and network before you need them. Consider whether there is any way to generate even $500 to $1,000 per month of income that does not depend on your employer. The people who navigate financial crises with their financial lives intact are not the ones who predicted them. They are the ones who reduce their dependence on the financial system working normally in order to keep their own lives working normally. Lower leverage. More liquid savings. Less dependence on a single employer. Less of their net worth in assets that require other people's confidence to hold their value. The 2008 crisis created the greatest wealth transfer in modern American history. Wealth moved from the leveraged and exposed to the cash-rich and prepared. The same transfer will happen in the next crisis. The question is which side of it you will be on. Not because of luck. Because of the decisions you make right now, before it arrives, when there is still time to make them. Your life if the 2008 crash happens again in 2026 and you are not ready looks like the unprepared person. Your life if you take the steps available to you right now looks fundamentally different. The choice of which path you are on is being made today. In the decisions about savings rates, debt levels, asset allocation, and professional investment that seem optional when things are fine and become everything when they are not.